Good Sunday afternoon, everybody. Today is September the 8th, and thought I'd make a quick video and share my experience and my thoughts about alternators. I fly an experimental aircraft, a Vans RV-7A, and when I built it 12 years ago, finished building it 12 years ago, it had a certified alternator on it. And about 4 years or so after I started flying it, it failed, and I ended up deciding to go with an automotive alternator. And that's the reasons that I'm going to discuss right here is why I wanted to go with an automotive alternator. So the scenario is you're flying off, got your girlfriend or your wife with you, you fly 300 or 400 miles, you have a failure, you land, and thankfully you've landed at a place that's full service. They got a mechanic and a maintenance shop, so you're in good shape. You get a hold of Aircraft Spruce, and they sell you a certified alternator. And if it's late in the afternoon, you don't want to hear the words, well, we'll go out first thing in the morning. No, that doubles your, now you got to wait 2 nights instead of just one. If you get them early enough in the day, then you can cut some of these costs in half. So get you a certified alternator on the way, and it costs you about $800 for this alternator. Shipping and overnight shipping is going to run you about another $100. And now that you got 2 nights to think about, so that's 2 nights in a hotel, $150 a night for a couple of nights, $300. And she's not going to be happy with a bag of chips and a candy bar, so don't even, propose that idea. You're looking at Olive Garden or something like that. So dinner for 2, Olive Garden. Let's just say you left the kids at home, so you're looking at $120, $60 a piece. For each night. Lunch, maybe you can get by with 1 day of lunch tomorrow and get it fixed and get out of here before lunch the next day. So you're looking at another $30. Say you go fast food. Breakfast, you lucked out there. Continental breakfast. So you can get by with a cup of coffee and some eggs and a biscuit. That ought to satisfy her. You're going to have to get around, so unless you can get your hands on a courtesy car for a couple of days, you're going to have to pay for a rental car. So you're looking at, I'm just estimating these costs here, say $60 a day. For a rental car for a couple of days, that's $120. Now you got the alternator on order. What are you going to do? Just sit in the room? No, you're going to take her to dinner. Let's go do some shopping or maybe go to a movie. So add another $75 for some entertainment. Okay, now the alternator comes in and you got to pay a mechanic to put it on. 3 hours, $100 an hour, shop rate, $300. Brings your total to about almost $1,850 for the alternator. Now the big downside to all of this, besides the cost, is just sitting and waiting. While you're sitting and waiting, you're spending this other money. All right, now let's switch over to an experimental aircraft and with a certified alternator. And that's a scenario that I want to talk about because a lot of guys, I'm a member of Vans Air Force, and there's a lot of guys who wouldn't have anything but a certified alternator. Unless you have it with you in the plane, like I always carry. This is an automotive alternator, and I ended up with this. I'll get to that in a minute. But unless you have a certified alternator with you in the plane, you've got the same kind of scenario. You got to wait. So you order one. There's that cost. The same dinner, the same car rental if you can't get a courtesy car, the same entertainment kinds of things while you're waiting on that certified alternator to come. It's an experimental aircraft that you built so you can put it on yourself. That saves you $300. So now we've dropped that cost down to $1,550. All right, now, this is my experience. I fly an experimental airplane, and I've had 2 alternator failures. The first time was the certified alternator. I was about 100 miles from home. It quit. I landed hoping it was just a loose wire or alternator belt, because I do carry a spare belt. Unfortunately, it wasn't. So what I did is I took off, turned the master switch off, and flew home using my software on my phone and a battery that plugs into my ADS-B in unit, which gives me traffic and weather. And I made it home fine. It was only 100 miles, took me about 30 minutes in my plane, or a little more than 30 minutes. And when I put the new alternator on, I went with automotive. And here's a handy piece of information that I didn't know until I went through this. If you didn't know, if there's a thing called the Lester number, apparently in the automotive world, everything electrical is listed by Lester numbers. I didn't even know what somebody was talking about on Vans Air Force when I was trying to figure out what alternator to put on my plane. I did finally find my Lester number. It was on the plans, on the alternator blueprints. It said Lester number. That was the life-saving kind of thing. Without that, they couldn't even test my alternator. I guess they have to program their little computer that hooks up to the thing to tell it what kind of an alternator it is. The Lester number, and my Lester number is 14684. My airplane has a Lycoming 0320. So that's the Lester number for mine. Also, Suzuki Samurai, years 86 to 95. That also gives them the information they need. So either one of those ought to get you going. But now, flew with that alternator for a couple of years, and it failed. And I was away from home when it failed. So I went to O'Reilly's, bought another alternator. I already had this stuff with me, so I know that now. That don't fly without that information. And put it on. No shipping. This was on a Sunday, by the way. That's the wonderful thing about an automotive alternator. They're available 7 days a week. And unless you've got some kind of an obscure model or whatever, you ought to be able to get it from either O'Reilly's, Advanced, or... So no shipping, no hotel, no food you got to worry about. Maybe a candy bar, a bag of chips while you're going to get it. No entertainment or anything like that. No mechanic. Total cost about $130. Now here's the interesting thing. I didn't realize it, but when I got home, I took that alternator that failed back to O'Reilly's, and they said, "Oh, it's got a lifetime warranty." They gave me another one. That's where I got this one. So I made sure that it fit. The only thing, incidentally, that had to change, this was a drop-in replacement for the certified alternator that came off the plane. The only thing I had to do was ream this hole out, the alternator adjust bracket. Had to ream that hole out. And but it's a drop-in replacement. And it's wonderful that it's available 7 days a week. The cost is dirt cheap compared to anything certified. That's why I fly with an automotive alternator. Now, like I said, I don't fly IFR. If I was flying hard IFR, I think it would be a good investment to have a certified alternator on the plane. But being a VFR only guy, nope, I'll keep that money and buy avgas. So, hope you found this informative and entertaining. If you did, hit that like and give me a subscribe. And we'll see you next time.